I wasn't planning on doing a video today, but after seeing the new feature added in Fusion 360's latest update, I put everything on my to-do list on hold to make this video for you. It's that good. I'm at my college makerspace because Hurricane Isaias recently went through and left me with no power and no internet. I actually just got back power, but still no internet, and I didn't want to have to wait a few more days to get this video out to you. So, okay, what feature am I talking about? This is the brand spanking new Emboss feature that now allows you to wrap text around curved objects without having to resort to all sorts of workarounds and hacks. It's one of the top questions I get, so I'm really excited that I can now give you a simple solution. If you recall, I had even recorded a video 2 years ago on how to do this, but it involved using the sheet metal environment, and although I got the job done, it was just not an ideal solution. All right, let's dive in and check out this new feature. All right, the new Emboss feature can be found in your Create menu. So if you go to Create, you'll see it right under Web. It'll say Emboss. Now, if you don't see it there, then you're going to need to make sure that your Fusion 360 is up to date. So if you click here on this little clock icon, if you hover over it, it says Job Status. And if you haven't updated yet, you'll see a little one next to it, and it'll say a new version of Fusion 360 has landed. When you're ready, restart to get the latest goods. So simply restart Fusion 360 and then go back and then check, and you should then see that you have this Emboss feature. All right, let's go for a test run. So we'll begin by creating a sketch. So we'll go to Create and down to Create Sketch. I'm simply going to quickly create a sketch here on my XY plane. And let's start with a circle. So I'll click on C for circle. And let me create a circle here, about 100 diameters or so. And then I'll recreate another one just to give me this sort of outer ring here so I can go ahead and extrude it. So E for extrude, I'll select that profile. I'm going to raise that up a bit just so I have a ring here to test with. Let's actually first, let me just quickly show you how this is handled before the update to show you the major difference. So the way I would normally tackle something like this would be let's create a offset plane just so it'll be easier to visualize it if we create a plane in front of it. So I'm going to click on this ZX plane here and I'm just going to bring it out. And like this step is not really necessary. You can create a sketch right on that center plane, but again, it'll be easier to visualize it this way. Okay, so we'll create a plane and put it on top here or in the front of that ring. And then I'm going to create a sketch right on that plane. So create sketch, select this plane I just made. And now I'll go ahead and create some text. So I'll go down to Create Text. I'll click up here and let's type something. So I'm going to click inside this text box and let's type desktop makes. And you'll see sometimes it'll come upside down and you just have to rotate it using that little widget. And then I'll grab it and move it into place with this little sort of blue handle here. And then we can increase the height here. So maybe make it like 15 to make it a little bit bigger. Zoom out a bit. Let's go even a little bit bigger. I'll do like 17. Okay, so let's say we have this here, and then I'll click OK, stop sketch or finish sketch there, and then E for extrude. I'm going to select the text. And what I would do in this case, again, this is before we have this new feature. So normally the way I would tackle this, I would say my start would go from object and the ring would be my object, and we'll do an extrusion, let's say a distance of 2 millimeters, and then click OK. And you can see what happened. It takes that sketch and extrudes it through. Right away you notice the problem, right? The parts that extruded in the center are fine, but as you get towards the edge, it becomes distorted. Like this S is really distorted here, and you can see because it's starting to wrap around. So that was the main issue that we had doing it this way. So now let's try it with the new feature. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to take my timeline and just go back one step, and that goes before I made that extrusion. And let me right click here. I'm going to go to move copy, and I'm going to change my move object to bodies. Select my ring here. I'm going to go to create copy and take this arrow and just move it up a bit. Okay, now I have a second copy of it, and I can take my timeline and move it forward again. Okay, so now let's try it with the new way. So I'm going to create a sketch on that same plane. So let me make it visible here. And so let's go to create sketch. I'm going to select that plane. And we're going to do the same thing. So let's create another text here. Type it up here. Again, I'll put desktop makes. We're going to make it, what did we do, 17. And we're going to flip this upright. And let's move it into area here, into place. Okay, and now click OK. Finish sketch. And instead of doing an extrude, we're going to go to create and down to emboss. And we get this new dialog box here. So my sketch profile, I'm going to select it. So I'm simply selecting my sketch here, just clicking anywhere in that sketch. And my face, I'll select the ring or that surface of that body, and take a look at that. So right away you see I'm not getting that type of distortion here on that S. I mean, that is perfect. And we have the option here of going with either an emboss or a deboss, which will go sort of engrave it. You can see it'll do a cut, and we can put in our depth here right now. So we're just going in -2 millimeters, and let's click OK here. I'll talk a little bit about the other features in a second, but I just want to kind of compare the two so you see that it's night and day here. I mean, as you can see, in the parts in the middle are, they're about the same, but as you go to the sides, you can clearly see that with the first way of doing it, these letters quickly begin to distort. But if you take a look, at our S here, that's perfect. It keeps its shape there. It does not distort like it does here. Okay, let's play around with this a little more. Let's go back to that emboss feature and see some more options we have available to us. So over here, you'll notice some alignment options here. So horizontal distance, we can go ahead and, for example, let's type in 5 and see what happens. Okay, so it was hard to see, but it shifted it to the right. So the way this works, it seems to be kind of like a degree, like an angle. Like if I type 90, it'll take this and it's going to move it 90 degrees here to the side. So you don't have to place your sketch exactly where you want it to engrave. If I do a 180, it should do it on the opposite side. So let's take a look at that. Yeah, so now it's all the way here on the opposite side. So great little feature there to be aware of. Let's go back to 0, and then we'll look at vertical distance here. So here, let me go ahead and enter 5 and see what happens. And you can see it shifted up, or we can do, for example, a -5, and that shifts it down. So let's try go a little more, like a -8. Okay, yeah, and we can see it's even lower, and that P here begins to get cut off. All right, let's go back to 0 over there. And then you've got a rotation angle here, and this is really cool. So we can do, let's try like a 3-degree rotation, and you can see, very subtle, but we have an angle here. Let's go a little bit more so we can see it a little clearer. Let's do a 5, and I'll click OK here, and you can see that you can get it to engrave at an angle. Okay, let me go back. I'm gonna change that to a 0, and I'm gonna make one more copy, and we're gonna play with this even more. So I'm going to do the same approach that I did earlier. I'm going to take this timeline and move it back before that emboss, and then I'm going to right click on the second ring, go to move copy, change the move object from faces to bodies, click on my body, click on create copy, and I'm going to shift this up a bit. Click OK. I'm going to take my timeline and move it back to the future. And let's go ahead and try something else here. I'm going to again create a new sketch here. So we'll go to create sketch. We're going to select our plane again. So I'm going to bring that into view. Here's that plane. So let's create another text here. And this time I want to see if it'll actually wrap around the whole thing. So we'll create a much bigger text. So again, let's set our height to 17 here, and then we'll click on text, and let's write desktop creates the best online courses. Just a simple statement of fact here. And let's move that into place. I'm just gonna eyeball it here to center it, and we'll click OK and finish sketch. And now we're going to go to create, down to emboss, select our text here. So we see that our sketch profile says one selected, and then we're going to click on faces, click on selector, select this face of our ring, and we're going to go and change this from emboss to deboss, just so we can have a straight comparison with the rest of the text there. All right, and I'll click OK, and check this out. It goes all the way around. I mean, how cool is that? No distortion at all. It just works perfectly. I'm so excited about this because it's doing stuff like this just took forever when you try to do it the other way and just relying on all sorts of hacks and different workarounds. And this just opens up a whole new creative ability with this software, and I'm so glad Fusion finally added it in. Let's go ahead and go back to, I can't stop playing around with it. Let's try something here. What happens if your text is too long and it wraps around itself, like if it overlaps? So I know some of you are actually thinking about that right now. So let's test that out. I'm going to go back to that sketch where I created that text, and we're just going to double click on this text, and we're going to make it a bit longer. So desktop creates the best online courses, hands down, exclamation mark, and we'll click OK. All right, finish sketch. And okay, right away you see I've got this little warning triangle. So I'm going to click on it, and it's going to say, one reference failures, sketch profiles create a self-intersecting body, adjust depth of emboss or size of sketch profile. All right, so it tells us that it's going to self-intersect and it's not going to work. So you see it didn't add it, and we have a little highlighted yellow here on that emboss telling us it's not going to work. So that's what happens if you make it too large, you can see there. So let's go ahead and again we'll readjust this. So let's go back to that sketch there in that dialog box. We're going to have to remove hands down. I think we have room for an exclamation mark, so we'll leave that in there. Click OK, finish sketch. Okay, and you can see now we don't have our little warning there. It's not highlighted yellow, and our exclamation mark is added in there. Good to know. If you make it too long, it simply won't work. Okay, so one more thing I want to try here is on this long text here. Let me go back and do edit feature, and I want to now see that rotation angle. Let's just play around with that with the long string of text here. So let's try. I'm going to give that a 5-degree rotation angle there. And you may have to be patient here whenever dealing with text. It seems like there's quite a bit of calculation that has to take place, so you'll have to wait a few seconds. So okay, I'm going to click OK there and see how that looks. Okay, and you can see here it goes from the top and just wraps its way around the bottom. All right, that angle looks like it was a bit too much because it's cutting off that desktop, the word desktop. So let's go back and edit that feature. So I'll go back and change this from a 5 to a 3. And it looks like I'm still getting a little bit of that D cut off, so let's go to a 2. Okay, that looks perfect. I'll click OK, and there we go. So very neat. This is great stuff here. I mean, again, just look at the comparison between the old way of doing it and the new way of doing it here. I'm very excited. This is just sort of a first look at this, just to see what can quickly be done. Really, I mean, I'm so excited. This solves such a big problem in that we were having with trying to create text in Fusion 360. And I'd say like every week or so I would get an email or someone would post in one of my YouTube videos on how to do this. I'm so excited that there's a really smooth solution here. And something to get even more excited about, if you look at Fusion 360's August 2020 product update and go down to the Emboss command, you'll see that they say that currently Emboss works with sketch text, but we are also in the process of revamping the sketch text command as a whole, which will give you more flexibility around working with text in the sketch environment and enabling text on path. Stay tuned for that. So this I'm really looking forward to. They mention completely revamping the sketch text command as a whole and giving us more flexibility and even a text on path command. So that's going to open up even a whole new world of functionality and more opportunities to be even more creative. So really looking forward to see what Fusion 360 has in store for that. All right, let me know what you thought of this video and of this new feature. Are you as excited as I am that we finally have a way to wrap text around a curved object? And it doesn't really have to be just text. It could be really any creative design that you make that you can now be able to wrap it around a cylinder or anything curvy. So let me know your thoughts below. And if you're looking to learn Fusion 360, make sure to check out my Quick Start mini series that I have linked down below. It'll be the fastest way to just get up and running with Fusion 360 while you follow my beginner projects. And if you're more advanced, then check out my website at desktopmakes.com, where I have some design courses on there that will help you take your design skills to the next level. And also, if you're a teacher working at a school, then you want to take a look at my school license package that I recently uploaded. All right, I will see you all next time.